When we think of Cold War espionage, we picture hidden microfilm and midnight assassinations. We imagine a world of gadgets, secret agents, and cinematic thrillers. Yuri Bezmenov knew the reality. As a former propagandist for the KGB, he understood the Soviet strategy from the inside, and after defecting to the West, he revealed a staggering detail about his former employer. Traditional intelligence gathering accounted for only about 15% of their time and resources. This visualization shows how the budget was actually distributed. The small sliver on the left represents traditional spycraft, while the towering 85% block on the right was allocated to a different weapon, ideological subversion. It was an overt process of psychological warfare. This strategy turns a superpower's own population into its primary vulnerability, weaponizing psychological manipulation in broad daylight. Bezmenov understood this mechanism so intimately that he risked everything to expose it.
Stationed in India, he pulled off a daring escape, evading both his KGB handlers and local police by posing as a barefoot hippie, blending seamlessly into the American counterculture. He slipped out of the country to deliver a very specific warning to the United States. A time bomb was ticking inside their borders, and they were the ones actively constructing it. The KGB's master blueprint for taking down an adversary relies on 4 distinct stages. The first, and by far the longest, is demoralization. This timeline maps 15 to 20 years, the exact time needed to educate a generation in the enemy's ideology. To inject this, the KGB targeted intellectuals and journalists, cynically labeling them useful idiots and utilizing their platforms to bring foreign propaganda home. Bezmenov was personally tasked with manipulating visiting elites. His tactics included keeping foreign correspondents permanently intoxicated or touring them through bright, supposedly exemplary kindergartens that were actually prisons for the children of political dissidents. High-level American officials regularly fell for the routine. Politicians like Ted Kennedy participated in staged Soviet events, serving as unwitting props to validate the illusion for an American audience. The resulting psychological damage is extremely severe. A thoroughly demoralized person loses the basic ability to process authentic information. You can shower them with raw documents, photographs, and hard evidence, and they will still flatly reject the facts sitting right in front of them. The subverter knows phase 1 is complete when the population's perception of reality is entirely detached from the truth. Objective facts simply stop mattering to them. This brings us to stage 2, destabilization. The subverter drops the ideological maneuvering and ruthlessly targets the nation's core functions. Over a tight 2 to 5 year window, this structural model shows how stress fractures spread through a country's economy, its foreign relations, and its defense systems. Radical elements force these institutional cracks wide open, bringing normal societal functions to a grinding halt. That structural failure triggers stage 3, crisis. Within a brief, chaotic 6-week window, the entire free market violently collapses inward. With the foundation gone and supply chains broken, a panicked society willingly surrenders its freedoms. The public practically begs for a heavy, centralized government to step in and restore order. The final phase is marked by a deeply cynical Soviet term, normalization. It is the implementation of an unquestioned totalitarian regime. Whenever Soviet leadership sent military tanks into brotherly nations to crush civilian protests by force, Moscow would officially declare the situation normalized. This is where the idealistic academics and journalists from the first stage meet their end. The moment the new regime takes control, those useful idiots are the very first to be lined up and executed, simply because they know exactly how the takeover was engineered. The intellectuals who dreamed of designing a utopian society inevitably become the primary victims of the exact system they helped build. When Bezmenov laid out this framework in 1984, he believed the United States had already crossed a dangerous threshold. In his assessment, the country was heavily demoralized and unknowingly acting as its own destroyer. Once a society reaches that state of demoralization, you cannot save it by arguing with facts. The only cure is waiting another 20 years to educate an entirely new generation, grounding them in patriotism and reality. Bezmenov offered a stark, immediate solution. Citizens must force their government to sever the economic and technological lifelines flowing to oppressive regimes around the world. He warned that the target population is currently facing an undeclared, total war against the basic foundations of their system. And he left his audience with a sobering final thought. Unlike the defectors of the Cold War, if the last free society falls, its citizens will have nowhere left on Earth to run to.